Welcome, everybody, to Postgame Takeaways with Inside ND Sports. I'm Tyler James. He's the one and only Eric Hansen, and we're here to share our postgame takeaways from Notre Dame's 49-14 win over Army. Eric, what was your biggest takeaway from this blowout victory in Yankee Stadium?
My biggest takeaway was how hard it was to put all the numbers in context, because there was a lot of good numbers for Notre Dame, and Army had a lot going into the game. So my takeaway from all that is, there's not a lot that's going to translate to what Notre Dame can do next week at USC, except this. They're taking care of business. They're focusing on the task in front of them, and they're doing it at a really high level. And so, again, playing triple option's not going to help you with Notre Dame's or USC's passing offense. But they're a team that's doing everything Marcus Freeman wanted them to be, somebody that's really taking it one game at a time, that's not getting too big picture, and that's improving every week. And I do think it, even in the kind of mirage-y kind of numbers in this game, Notre Dame did improve this week. How about you?
Yeah, to me, it was just like Notre Dame was better at Army's blueprint than Army was. Notre Dame outrushed Army by 66 yards on half the number of carries. Notre Dame averaged 9.4 yards per carry. Army just 3.6. Notre Dame was able to shut down the Army running game for most of the game. A lot of Army's yardage comes late in putting together a touchdown drive late, and then sort of run past and over the vaunted defense for Army. And so, as we suspected, Army's wasn't as good as its stats indicated,
Right.
but Notre Dame showed that it's fully capable of not having to be someone it's not to completely dominate a team like Army.
Well, and I realize some of the rule changes with the cut blocks have changed a little bit of what the service academies are able to do to make it more of a schematic curveball. But I'll give Marcus Freeman credit, and Al Golden too. I mean, other than a half against Navy in Marcus's first season, they've done a pretty good job of handling that schematic curve, where Brian Kelly's teams and, Charlie Weiss and the people before Brian Kelly, it was a big ordeal to get through these games. And Notre Dame has gotten through ones that seemingly look better than those teams. I mean, these are teams, Notre Dame struggled with Navy teams that were 500. And these are Army and Navy teams coming in with good records and unprecedented statistics in their own history. So I do think Notre Dame deserves credit for that.
Yeah, and Notre Dame, yes, there is an advantage that Notre Dame has, that especially since it plays Navy every year, that it doesn't stray too far away from knowing how to defend these attacks. But now that Navy and Army are in a conference, all the conference teams that they play every year should have that same advantage, and they're not able to take advantage of that. Obviously, Notre Dame has better athletes than, say, Tulane, but I think even a number of those teams in the American could say that they have better athletes than Army and Navy on their roster too. So it's not just about athleticism that goes into stopping what these offenses are trying to do to you. But Notre Dame is really flexing in terms of its ability to stop sort of whatever kind of offense that's been thrown at it. USC's will look certainly a lot different than this week, but it's not like teams that want to pass have been able to pass with great success against Notre Dame anyways. So, and I'm not even sure if USC's passing game is getting better with its new quarterback right now. So we could talk about that much more next week. But
on Football Never Sleeps, which we're not doing today.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to point out today was just like, it seems clear to me that Notre Dame's running back rotation is paying off. Like Jeremiah Love looks as good as he has all season. He only has 121 carries, so it's not like there's a lot of tread on the tires. I mean, that's like 4 games for Bryson Daly at Army. and that's only 9 more carries than Riley Leonard has this season, which I think puts that number in perspective of how little Notre Dame has had to sort of ride Jeremiah Love, who, even though Jadarian Price is a talented running back, I think there's a clear gap between the two in terms of talent and ability and game-breaking ability. But Jadarian Price looks sharp again tonight. He's up to 77 carries in the season, and now Aeneas Williams is becoming more and more of a viable option in Notre Dame's backfield. And so I think that really puts Notre Dame in a good spot, not just going into the USC game, but for the playoff run that lies ahead, as long as Notre Dame can take care of business next week.
Well, I know Notre Dame's going to get back really late tonight. They may still not be back as we're putting this together, but they're not going to sleep in late enough to wake up to being in the top 5 tomorrow. That will happen after they wake up. But they will be probably number 5 in the AP poll tomorrow. I'll have them 4th on my ballot because I have them ahead of Penn State. And maybe they may jump Penn State. Penn State beat Minnesota on the road by 1 point, 26-25. Do you legitimately feel like this is a top 5 team in the nation?
I think so. There haven't been. I mean, outside of the Northern Illinois game, yes, you have to account for that. But since then, there haven't been enough reasons to think otherwise about Notre Dame. I know especially as people who cover this team on a weekly basis, a daily basis, there are things that Notre Dame has to improve. It can continue,
and
to
even
get
from
better.
Their mom's basement.
Well, neither of us are doing that, but some people do.
My mom does have a basement. I don't.
We know we're painfully familiar with the flaws that Notre Dame has, but the flaws,
like their kicker making more tackles than field goals today.
Yeah, but those flaws are amplified across college football, and Notre Dame is doing better at navigating around them than just about anyone right now. So you have to like what Notre Dame's been able to do, and I think, especially with the way other teams across the country are playing, you get into a playoff and you expect to win the first game if that comes to it. So I really like the way Notre Dame is playing right now. Yes, we'll continue to talk about things that they can do better, but I do think they're rightfully a top 5 team and have earned that with what they've been able to do on a week in and week out basis.
Let's talk about Marcus Freeman a little bit. I wrote about him some in my column because, at the beginning of the year, everybody said, hey, it's the 3rd year. It's such a defining thing in Notre Dame history. And it has been unbelievably reliable metric over the years that 3rd year not only defines that season for the coach, but it really what they're going to turn into. It's very predictive of that. So what do we think of what Marcus Freeman is doing with 1 game left of year 3? And that game's going to really weigh in on history. But what do we think? What do you like about what Marcus Freeman's doing? Is there anything you're concerned about?
I like, for as much as I don't like in terms of the content that it provides us in terms of coverage, like the message that Marcus Freeman continues to rely upon in terms of striving for perfection, 1 week at a time, taking advantage of every moment. And I think all those things seem to be resonating in the right way and not
Team glory.
Team glory. Yeah. Team glory is the new hot catchphrase for Notre Dame right now. All these things that get put on t-shirts, that
collectible plates.
that only matter if the you keep winning, and so I like that. I think we still have a lot to learn about Marcus Freeman in terms of like a game day coach in those real close, tight games against good coaches. We haven't seen a lot of those games for Notre Dame this season, and I think you could say, even going back to that Northern Illinois game, maybe he was outcoached in that game. So there are certainly things that Marcus Freeman and his coaching staff can do to continue to improve it and show that they're capable of winning playoff games. But in terms of the things that they need to do to get on the path to get there, I think it's hard to complain about what they've done. What do you think about how Freeman is evolving as a coach?
I'll tell you the one thing that I really like, Tyler, and I think the team is following him, is it felt like there were times with Brian Kelly when they got and Brian Kelly did a lot for Notre Dame. I don't want to discount what he did, but it felt like sometimes when they got near the big stage, they kind of tiptoed toward it. Mm-hmm. And even in 2012, that USC game with USC having a backup quarterback, and it just felt, like a sigh of relief. And Marcus Freeman isn't tiptoeing. He's kicking down the door and taking names. Now, again, they may not win, but if they're going to make a mistake, they're going to make it going 100 miles an hour. And I like the aggressiveness. I like, what he said on the NBC broadcast tonight about playing with violence tonight. I went, whoa, that's pretty an aggressive word. So I do like that. I like how, that they're always, he's never trying to defend something. I remember just asking Brian Kelly once in 2011, how do you think Tommy Rees played? Hey, he's 8-4 as a starter. Okay. 8-4, pretty good. It's like, well, I just asked how he played, but okay. But Marcus is always wanting to kind of look at the things that people are asking about. Like Marcus will look at the kicking game and say, what in the world is going on with this? Mm-hmm. Where they got a field goal blocked and they missed a 48-yarder. And that's one of the things that I really like about him. I like how he's not afraid to lean into his coordinators and give those guys credit and listen to what they have to say. I like the question everything mantra. I don't like the word salads that he's learned to do. He's good at it now. I mean, he's good at the word salad when he has to be. But I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of growth in him as a coach. And again, USC is going to be another test in that. But I do expect Notre Dame to pass that test. I watched a little bit of the USC-UCLA game while I was writing tonight, and I think Notre Dame is the better team there. And so I'm curious, do you still consider Lincoln Riley? You see, I didn't say Riley Leonard or Riley Mills. Lincoln Riley, a good coach or better than average coach or even an elite coach, what he was viewed upon when he went to the USC job?
I would say his stock has definitely dropped. I don't watch every USC game enough to know the ins and outs of what he's doing wrong or right consistently at the way that we would with Notre Dame. But yeah, I think the stocks on those two guys are going the opposite directions, it seems like, with Marcus Freeman and Lincoln Riley. I wanted to circle back to your point about Marcus Freeman's aggressiveness. I wonder, I know there were points of aggressiveness in that Ohio State loss last year where Notre Dame went for it on fourth down, but the series where Notre Dame could have put the game away, I thought they weren't as aggressive as they needed to and were being a little maybe too cute. And so I wonder if that was a turning point. I don't know that Marcus Freeman would ever point to that or even admit to that if that were the case, because I think maybe then it would maybe point it to Jared Parker as a reason for it. But since then, it does really seem like Notre Dame has amplified that aggressiveness and leaned into it even more and sort of continued to play with that mantra. And now Lincoln Riley has to find a way to slow down or rein in Notre Dame's aggressiveness when Notre Dame's a game away from clinching not just a playoff spot, but a home playoff game with the way things are shaking out now.
Yeah, some of the milestones tonight, Riley Leonard had his best pass efficiency rating of his career, 223.3, and he didn't even play through the end of the third quarter. Steve Angeli came in and finished up. Jeremiah Love got a touchdown or more, and it was or more this week, 3 of them, including a hurdle. And so that's the 11th straight game. So he ties a 50-year-old record held by Wayne Bullock for most games with a touchdown or more, which is 11. So if he does that against USC, he'll break the record. Career high tackles from Adon Schuler and Jaiden Ausberry. What else do we want to mention statistically?
I thought the 5 tackles for loss that Notre Dame had against Army only gives up less than 2.5 per game. I thought that was important in sort of getting Army off schedule and keeping them in more difficult downs and distances, because that is crucial to forcing some 3 and outs like Notre Dame did against Army.
And they forced 4 3 and outs in the first half. Army had 10 3 and outs all year coming into the game.
Right.
Notre Dame had 5 rushing touchdowns. Army had given up 3 all year. I mean, there were a lot of things that Army never did or Army didn't do. I mean, they were the number 1 team in pass efficiency at almost a 190 rating. They were under 60 against Notre Dame. The 26 passing yards are the fewest that Notre Dame's given up in a game. And Army was playing from behind the whole game. Fewest they've given up in 9 years. So there were a lot of statistical superlatives. That's why I said it screams for context, because you're like, okay, well, wait a second. were these guys just unmasked? Or
it does feel different than the Navy game, though, because the Navy game felt like, well, Navy really shot itself in the foot a lot, where it didn't feel like Army was doing a lot of things to hurt themselves, but they just clearly weren't better than Notre Dame, and that was being proven on almost a play-by-play basis.
And without Howard Cross again.
Yep.
I think Marcus Freeman mentioned in the post-game press conference that he might have been able to play, but they just didn't want to push it. And then wasn't there something about Kingston Viliamu-Asa with a knee sprain maybe?
Yeah, he sprained his knee. I don't know at what point that happened in the first half, but I know in the second half he was not dressed and had a wrap thing around his right knee. So we'll see how much time he has to miss, or if he has to miss more time. We don't know that for sure. Marcus Freeman said he would be evaluated when they got back to South Bend, but that would be a loss. Obviously, depending on the timeline of how long that would be, I think Notre Dame can certainly go into USC and still win without Kingston Viliamu-Asa, but getting Howard Cross back for that game would be extremely beneficial, and you have to imagine that he's a go for next week, unless he's really out of commission, because Notre Dame's going to have quite a bit of time off to recover before that college football playoff game. So I think it'll probably be all hands on deck for anyone who's close, and that unless there are other injuries that popped up tonight, that Howard Cross would be the only one that we would be thinking of that would be iffy going into that one. So.
Well, let's talk real quick about special teams. James Rendell never punted. There wasn't ever an occasion for him to punt. He couldn't even do a fake punt this week. But Jeter, since he got hurt in the Stanford game, Notre Dame, including the Jeter kicks, is 3 of 10 on field goals. So Marcus was asked about Jeter's health in the post-game press conference. It didn't feel real clear to me. Maybe you could clarify it, Tyler. But in addition to doing that, I'm going to give you a second assignment, and that's what would you do at this point? Would you just try to find the best of the other kickers and work with that for USC and maybe then get Jeter ready for the playoff? Or do you get to, let Jeter keep kicking and get his confidence back? Because it sounded like Marcus alluded that, well, it's not a health thing. And what is it?
Yeah, he didn't have an answer for why he missed that kick, but yeah, he did seem to be dismissed. He was given the option, like, is this a health situation that is limiting Mitch Jeter in terms of being able to make some kicks? Now I think he didn't spend a full minute talking about that. He quickly pivoted to saying, hey, if we didn't get a false start on that play before the 48-yarder, it's a 43-yarder, and then maybe he makes that. I think you have to, as long as Mitch Jeter isn't that injured, I think you have to keep trotting him out there. I think the only way he's going to get better is by taking more opportunities, unless it is truly an injury situation that would benefit him from taking a week off. but I don't really know what the issue is. The blocks seem very bad. There's obviously some issues in terms of blocking up front, and even with a false start, the line on the field goal unit needs to be better. And like, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm telling Marty Biaggi, hey, the fake punts are shelved until we figure out our field goal situation. Like, no more practicing fake punts. We got to learn how to make field goals.
Let's do a fake getting our field goal blocked.
Yeah, we're also going to have to start sneaking Tyler Buckner out there more often and start running fake field goals, because that's an issue right now.
Or maybe they could have Tyler Buckner kick them.
Yeah, and a serious one. I think it's something that has to get fixed, because you're going to play a close game here soon, whether it's against USC or in the college football playoffs. So Notre Dame's got to get that back in line. All right, Eric, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
I'm just about done with my top 25 ballot. I'll tell you, it's what a crazy week. You can't take any week for granted in college football. There are no gimme weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that, like, yes, teams aren't having the same sort of loss that Notre Dame had to Northern Illinois early in the season, but a lot of teams are having their what the heck moments late in the season.
Oklahoma smoking Alabama.
Yeah, like what is that about? And even Texas A&M not being able to win at Auburn. It's like, Auburn's not good. Like, this shouldn't be that big of a deal. But a lot of teams not necessarily showing up and making strong cases for their college football playoff inclusion, and Notre Dame is not part of that group. Notre Dame is making strong statements, and we'll have an opportunity to do that once more next Saturday against USC, and then watch more chaos play out in the conference championship games across the country. So that's it from New York and South Bend. Please hit the subscribe button and give us a like before you close out of this video if you haven't done so already. You can also subscribe to us on InsideNDSports.com with a 30-day free trial using promo code NDYT. We'd like to hear your biggest takeaways from Saturday's game, so please let us know in the comments. And a programming note, due to Notre Dame's interview schedule this coming week, we're moving Football Never Sleeps to Tuesday night rather than Monday night, so we'll plan to go live at 7 p.m. Eastern like normal, but just on Tuesday night instead of Monday. And then we'll wrap up shortly before the new college football rankings are released on Tuesday night. So that's the plan for us. You got something else for us?
From me, if you like the Ramones, leave that in the comments below.
All right, like the Ramones. And make sure you head over and watch Into the End Zone with Bob Morton if you didn't catch that already. Eric and Bob Morton were live right after the game.
I was in the other box, though.
Impressive work by Bob Morton to get back out of the stadium in time to do the show with you.
Yeah, and then he had a pack to leave.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap up so I can start getting packing to leave in the morning. So we appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll see you on Tuesday night.